Okay. Anyway, we are starting chapter 21. It's all about the respiratory system, right? Anatomy of the respiratory system, also the digestive system in the second half. So let's begin with the nose, the nasal cavity. The nose, by the way, refers to, of course, the external part, but also your nasal cavity. So your nasal cavity is separated into two sides by the nasal septum.
So we have two noses?
No, you have two chambers in your nose. The nasal septum, it consists of both cartilage and bone, but it is rarely situated exactly in the middle of the nose. All right, usually one of your nasal cavities is larger than the other. You may have noticed this, possibly when you have a cold, like one side of your nose is stuffed up and the other one is not. The one that's stuffed or feels more stuffy is probably the smaller side.
Is it always going to be the same one?
It switches.
Yeah, okay, maybe it switches,
I feel like it
but
switches when I believe on this.
but that's why sometimes, you know, only one half feels stuffy and the other half doesn't. Now, sometimes these septums can be so deviated that it does cause breathing problems, and then you would think about surgery. Some people just go through the cosmetic procedure just to make their nose straighter, but in some cases it does help, especially if they're having a lot of breathing trouble and they're not sleeping very well because they're not breathing very well when they're sleeping at night because they wake up. That happens a lot. So that's the nasal septum. Now, it is lined with the nasal cavity, sorry. The nasal cavity is lined with a ciliated mucous membrane. Ciliated mucous membrane. And this membrane filters bacteria, smoke, and dust particles from the air. So that's what happens when you breathe in. The air is filtered. Now, if anything does irritate this membrane, then you sneeze. Because a sneeze is trying to expel it out of the membrane.
Nathan, once you have surgery on your nose, I don't even remember.
I heard that if you sneeze hard enough, you can break a
Yeah.
rib.
What?
I've never heard that before.
Once I heard that, I
that.
was just dying laughing for literally 30 minutes.
I don't know if you I've heard that if you sneeze hard enough and like you keep your eyes open, your
Busted.
eyes
Yeah, that's
Oh, okay.
Busted.
Imagine if they tried that and it didn't. But
Naturally, you will close your eyes when you sneeze, but you don't have to close your eyes.
It's like almost impossible to sneeze with your eyes open.
No.
That's why I said it's almost impossible.
It did make some really
But if you do keep your eyes open when you sneeze, they won't pop out of your head.
wide open eyes.
I seen a video of someone trying to do that and they went.
But I've never heard about the sneezing and breaking the rib. That one's different. Yeah.
That's really
No, I don't know what this is.
Okay, anyway, the sinuses, there are also these sinuses in the area of your nose. These nasal sinuses are air-filled cavities, but they open into the nasal cavity or into the pharynx, which we will talk about in just a moment. They are lined with epithelium. They also have cilia as well. But the big thing about sinuses, it just provides space in the skull. Okay, and it's areas of resonance, so our voice resonates throughout our skull. You actually have 4 pairs of sinuses. And yes, they can also become infected or swollen. The people that deal with sinus headaches, like they usually can feel it right around this area.
Oh my goodness.
Congestion and headaches right in this area.
I thought sinuses was just like whenever I feel like stuffy or something, my mom was like, "You have sinuses." I'm thinking like kind of like a
like it's a disease or something.
sort of.
Now everybody has sinuses,
I
then you
didn't know
may
there was a
have
thing in your body.
sinus infection.
No, I didn't know that.
You got a sinus, Evans.
But just because you have a cold doesn't mean that you have a sinus infection.
She's like every time like
No,
for
it's
like
sinus sounds weird.
headaches or something, she's like, oh, it's sinuses.
But that's not necessarily true.
It
'Cause
makes-
I get a lot of headaches, but
That
they're not my
sounds so weird.
sinus.
Well, it's like whenever, I don't know, it's,
But yeah, if it's concentrated in this area, like if that's where you feel the pain, that's likely a sinus infection.
but whenever she says it's sinuses, it kind of sounds like the same thing as saying like, I don't know, it's a rash or something.
Oh, okay.
It feels like something you don't normally have.
Like a temporary thing. That is kind of a strange way to put it. Oh, it's your sinus.
I know, I'm Ebola.
All right. Now, as you breathe through your nose, the air is not only filtered, but it's also warmed and humidified before it reaches the other parts of the respiratory system. And that's a good thing because the lining of the respiratory system is delicate, so it prevents it from getting cold or dry. So that's the purpose of that. Not that you can't breathe through your mouth, but it's always good to breathe through your nose.
So,
Okay, the nasal cavity, the upper portion of it, has the nerve endings that are olfactory nerve endings or olfactory receptors, but they are involved in sensing odors. And we'll talk more about that in chapter 23 when we get to the nervous system. But that's where they are located. And sometimes when you do have a cold and you know, it's all stuffed up, and have you ever noticed you can't taste food?
Oh,
The sense of smell is really very combined with the sense of taste, so that's kind of sometimes why when you have a cold, nothing tastes right.
Oh, there was once like a video by these YouTubers, and they like tried to test to see if like they smelled something and then ate something,
Was
if
it
that
good
would like
mythical
change.
morning?
Yes,
Change
it
the
was.
flavor.
Yeah, and I don't know. Yeah.
That's exactly what I've been thinking.
Well, some tastes are really just smells, like peppermint,
Really?
for example. Peppermint is really the smell more than the taste.
Yeah.
Was it toxic?
I know you know how like some foods smell good but they taste horrible? That's how I feel about egg rolls. They smell so good.
That's how I feel about coffee. I like the smell of
Yeah.
coffee.
Yeah, but I don't like coffee.
I don't like the way it tastes.
Yeah, I mean it's okay. Like it's not great.
It's just too bitter for tasting, but I don't
Yeah.
mind the smell of it.
We taste that.
It smells good, but I just don't.
Even, and I don't see the point of drinking it, you're just gonna put tons of cream and
Oh,
sugar.
my mom's
Yeah,
talking about
it's like you have a little bit of
food.
coffee in your cream.
I know.
What?
Yeah.
What?
But I don't mind people make it around me and drink it around me. I don't
Yeah.
like the smell of it.
she's like, well, it's like also babies have good stuff.
Papa John's pizza is really good.
I was like,
Yes.
Okay,
She didn't even get
so the floor of your nasal cavity is also the roof of your mouth. It's called the palate. Okay?
plate.
So the palate separates your nasal cavity from your mouth cavity.
That's embarrassing. Plus,
And it's actually two bones that come together. And sometimes the bones, they're supposed to grow together when the embryo is growing and there's a suture. But sometimes they don't grow together properly. And then you get what's called a cleft lip. And then like the
Left
lip
lip.
splits, but it's also part of the roof of the mouth is not formed properly. That's the big thing. But the palate is made up of two parts. You got the hard palate is the bony part. Okay? And then the soft palate is muscle tissue, and that's the back of your throat, basically the back of your mouth. You have the uvula at the end; it hangs down there. That's muscle tissue.
It's the punching bag thing.
There's only one inside car.
Oh, I remember that.
The uvula actually is important because when you're swallowing food or drink, it does move back and upward to prevent food from entering your nasal cavity.
That's what it's
All
for.
right, that's important because sometimes, I don't know if that's ever happened to you where like something comes spewing out your nose.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was me when I drank like a huge bottle of
I've
Baja
had
Blast,
tea,
like
milk,
in
and water from my
less than a
nose.
minute.
Not
But I won, but it came out my nose. It was,
Oh, it did? Okay.
it was, I had milk in my nose for like a whole like day after that.
I usually
really?
have it
What was
like
it that
at
you
the
drank?
skate park.
The Baja Blast
that
that I
would
had,
be
tried to
good.
go
Those
back
are-
in
it's
competition,
Water
and I
fountain,
won.
it never makes it to my throat.
But-
It's
And
easy.
you're like, burning.
And it's like,
No, I didn't.
I'm like, come on.
Which one?
But yeah, there is so your nasal cavity and your mouth cavity are connected.
It happens to me whenever I'm like at the skate park, like I'm ready to get a drink of cold water, and then I lean over to the water fountain and it just like doesn't even try. It's like I lean over and it just goes straight through the nose.
Oh, really?
Come on. It's terrible.
That's like, ooh, and it's really
And it's
cold, right?
you feel like you don't notice it at first. Because it was like a spoon. I'm like,
All right, anyway, that can happen sometimes. Not supposed to happen, but it can happen. It's not necessarily a
Yeah, that
comfortable
was me.
feeling
I could not
either.
handle that.
All right, there is a diagram. I'm going to show it to you on the next slide, but it's a diagram you'll need to know for your quiz. It's on page 517, figure 21-2.
That's what
This is what it looks like.
Seat back here.
Okay? So, yeah, it's pretty easy. You have the sinuses we talked about, the nasal cavity, the hard palate, the soft palate, the larynx and trachea we're about to talk about. Eustachian tube, we'll talk about that as well. The uvula we mentioned, and the esophagus. Pretty easy diagram. But that, on a quiz, it's always fill in the blank, remember that. So that will be on the first quiz for this chapter. But that will be fill in the blank. But I'll mention it again next time. All right, so then the air goes from your nose, your nasal cavity, those membranes, as you know, we trace the passage of air. It next goes to the pharynx. What's that? There it is. There we go. The pharynx is the throat, and it's just a tube lined with ciliated mucous membrane. It's about 5 inches long. And it basically extends from the back of the nasal cavity to the esophagus. Okay?
Oh, Miss Austin, can I make a statement really quick to the class?
Does it have to do with this?
Oh,
I wanted to show you this diagram again. You see that area that's a little bit darker,
Yeah.
kind of orangey color, the darker shaded? That's the pharynx. It's not labeled on the diagram, but so it extends from the back of the nasal cavity right down to the esophagus. So it's that too.
Wait, you see how the uvula, how it kind of stops? Is it like that, bro?
Yes.
Oh, so then
It's
how
that
do
flesh that
you?
hangs
What?
down back there.
So how do you go down?
It doesn't.
Food?
You know, everything
Food is
Jared
swallowed. It
says
goes down your esophagus.
is so profound.
Oh, that's what the sound thing.
All right. Anyway,
You said your sinus is
so the pharynx actually is part of both the respiratory and digestive system because food has to pass through it and also air has to pass through it. Question?
Random fun fact, the doctors a long time ago were surprised whenever I was able to, they were like open wide. So I was like, ah. And you know that little thing that closes off your tubes? That little thing in the back? They're like, Evans, we can see that, what in the world? It's like, oh, okay. And so I looked in the mirror and sure enough, you can see from my throat. So that little thing on the bottom.
Can't see in your stomach.
I'm confused too. I don't know.
You know the thing that closes up the tubes so that
Like
when
the
you eat,
esophagus and the.
The epiglottis?
It's like a little teeny
It's a little
tongue in
piece
the
of
back of your
flesh.
throat.
Yeah, it's like a
Yes,
little piece of
that
flesh.
bit.
It's so big.
And you can actually see it when you open your mouth. Because most people can't. I mean, you can't.
Like if I really, like,
They gotta open
Oh,
really
fly.
wide.
It's like a minute, you're just kind of.
yeah.
Actually,
And they're like, that's kind of weird, Evans.
Random fun fact. You're a
Like-
freak of nature.
All right. So the pharynx does have 7
That's like my
openings.
fifth grade teacher. He would never let me keep laying down. She's like, you're gonna choke, Evans.
2 openings from the back of the nasal cavity for airflow, of course. And there's 2 because remember the nasal cavity is divided by the septum. All right, then you have 2 openings or passageways to the middle ear called the eustachian tubes. And those are for equalizing air pressure. That's what you feel like when your ears pop.
Oh, yeah.
That's just pressure equalizing, because if that didn't happen, your eardrum would just burst. So the popping is just your eardrum snapping back into regular position.
Have you ever like, you know how you like try to limit the pressure, whatever, go through your ears, whatever? You know what I'm talking about, like you like hiss and blow out?
Oh, when you're trying to unclog the ears.
Mhm. You ever did that and felt the air come out through your eyes?
Oh.
Yeah, I've done that.
All right. There's also the opening to the mouth cavity for the food and air to come in your mouth. All right. There's the entrance to the esophagus, which is the passageway for food. And then finally, there's the entrance to the larynx, which is the passageway to the trachea for air. So food and air go down separate passageways where they're supposed to.
And so like, you know how when people like when you swallow something and you like cough or whatever, and like you go down the wrong pipe? Is that what we're referring to?
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. All right, so the larynx, which is the next part that air passes through, the larynx is your voice box. It's a very short passageway that leads from the pharynx to the trachea. This is where you will find your vocal cords, or actually they're vocal folds. They're folds of skin. Not skin, but folds of tissue. And they're covered with mucus membrane, of course. Your whole digestive tract and respiratory system is lined with mucus membrane.
So they're different in every person, and that's why that we all
Yes, the length of them determines the pitch. Females usually have thinner, shorter vocal cords so they can have a higher pitch than men who have the longer, thicker. And it doesn't mean that that's always the same, because some females have a really low voice
like Jasper.
compared to other females, and then some males have a higher voice compared to.
Justin
But
It ruins everything.
the vocal, the reason that you produce sound is those, they like narrow and dilate, basically. That's what produces sound, and it's all about, also using our tongue and lips and teeth and all that to produce the correct sound. Now, the space between the folds is called the glottis. The idea is that's where the air should pass through, is the glottis. Okay, now, when you do swallow, and this is what you were talking about, Evans, when you swallow, like you're swallowing drink or food, then there's this little flap of tissue over the glottis called the epiglottis, right? And that prevents the food or the drink from going into the trachea, into the lungs, because then that's when you start coughing or choking. Choking, of course, would be worse because it might get lodged in the trachea and prevent any air from going through. And then there's the Heimlich to help out with that.
My girl choked on a pancake recently and died.
Gee, thanks for that story.
That's not sad.
Is that
bro.
legit?
Yeah.
Just one
He
pancake.
does
Choked
it.
on a pizza.
She was
Or
doing
was
a
she
pancake
like-
eating contest.
Oh.
I was little.
I want
It was a
to
sorority
thing,
thing.
but
This is curious.
I choked on
Yeah,
like
I
a
choked
in
in.
a donut.
Yeah, I've choked before.
I did it like when I was like
When I was
little.
younger, yeah.
When I was little, I like
very scary.
I love pizza and all that. I still do when I'm talking. And like I was like eating and all that, and pizza got stuck in my throat. And my sister like had to like hit me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My mom did it. It was a piece of hard candy got
Oh,
stuck,
wow.
and so my mom
So I still want to jump.
pulled me upside down.
What?
I have this vivid memory of it because I was in the car and she just had to like yank me out of the car
The sequel is the two.
I can't work it out.
and I popped it.
It's only that one because we need
Because I'm here today.
Yeah, it's too bad.
But you know how much minimum wage is
So
on
1/3.
Well, here, and then they did two, the 2/3.
Cooper, was it the other day I
You
choked
would
on a
make it
pizza
more than
roll?
me.
All right.
I could invest and all that like last night.
But this sometimes happens if you do try to breathe and swallow at the same time. You may get a little bit down what we consider down the wrong tube, right? And then you cough. As long as you're coughing, you're good, because coughing is your body's reflex to get it out. And sometimes it might take a while, but the coughing is a good thing. It's when you stop coughing that it's bad.
Oh.
Because then, if you still can feel it, and then all of a sudden you stop coughing, because that means no air is getting in. And then that's the bad part. And that's when the Heimlich
I would be
is.
scared.
Yes.
So, what happens if something gets into the lungs?
That's when you cough.
Scary is like serious.
But if something becomes lodged in the lungs, then usually surgery.
Not really.
Okay.
But
It would get lodged in the lungs.
no, it's
I
not.
can see.
That's why you cough. That's the
I
whole
agree.
coughing brings it up, and then usually like you can swallow it down the right way.
But because you help me with
It doesn't go into your lungs to digest it or something like that. But, you know, it's either you'll cough it and then you'll swallow it again and it'll go fine. Or, you know, someone's doing the Heimlich, you'll spit it out. And
Okay.
then you won't be eating it. So. But that's the idea. But the Heimlich is very important. It's actually one of the easiest first aid maneuvers to know if you ever need to perform the Heimlich. So you have to get behind someone. And the idea is you have to push on their abdomen, all right, not their ribs. You put your fist right under the ribs and you thrust upward. You take this fist, this hand, or maybe your left hand would be like this, make a fist, use your other hand, and you push upward. And you do it several times until eventually, and that's like, what it's doing is forcing whatever's stuck in the trachea, forcing it out. And they'll usually spit it out, or maybe it'll just come up to their mouth and they'll spit it out, but that's the idea, that's what you're supposed to do. If you're ever alone and start choking, find a chair, kind of like push yourself, throw yourself against the back of a chair.
And if you're choking, you can't talk so much.
All right, it'll hurt, it'll most likely hurt, but it's better than being dead.
Yeah.
You say you're choking, if you're choking and you know it, hit a chair.
That'd be the worst.
You're choking, you can't
thing
talk.
that
Like I was just imagining doing like.
But you want it to be like a wooden chair or a metal chair, not like a easy chair.
Choking.
That's not gonna work.
Your face will surely show it. Choking.
I can imagine something.
But you want it like with a hard back, hard back. Maybe even the counter.
What was that?
I think, actually, I've heard of someone using like the handle of an umbrella, not the pointed part, but the handle of an umbrella. So, it's just a matter of finding, you gotta do that thrust upward, that's the big thing. It's so that it pushes whatever's stuck.
That's what Tia
Faye, why do you do this?
Yeah, and if you're with someone who starts choking, do not ever hit them on the back, okay, that's a bad thing. Don't hit them on the back. If they're coughing and they're continuing to cough, just encourage them to cough. You know, keep coughing. If they stop coughing, the universal sign of choking is this, right? If they ever stop coughing, that, you know, and, you know, you can actually kind of verify that they're not breathing, and that's when you do that. But never do it if they're coughing.
Yep, all these.
No point. All right, there's the vocal folds. We talked about that, the vocal cords. So, and this side, they're relaxed, so there's not any sounds coming through, but when there's sounds coming through, they shorten and tighten.
It's air blowing through.
That whole thing. So good.
Okay, the trachea is the tube that extends from the larynx. It's approximately close to 5 inches long. It's about 1 inch wide. It is lined with ciliated mucous membrane that traps foreign matter. There's also, I don't have this written down, but there's these rings that hold it. Do I have this on there? No, okay. But there's these cartilaginous rings that go around your trachea, but they're not complete like circles. They're just like U-shaped rings. Because if they were complete around the trachea, it wouldn't be able to expand. But they're there just to basically hold the trachea in place. And then they expand.
Bless you. Bless you.
Oh my
It expands because behind your trachea is your esophagus. The esophagus is where the food goes down, and the trachea is where the air
Why
goes.
is the exact opposite? I don't know.
I've always been really
I don't think I've ever heard you sneeze before.
because a lot of times I just go.
He sneezes a lot.
I do.
He does.
Yeah,
By the way,
I like got annoyed of it.
Got
so
it. For the ciliated mucous membrane, it does trap that foreign matter. What happens is if you get anything foreign in there, it gets trapped in the mucous membrane. These little cilia push it back up to the back of your throat. Push, 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 and then you swallow it. So when you periodically swallow your saliva throughout the day, you're swallowing foreign matter as well. That gets digested in your stomach.
Foreign matter.
My face.
Foreign matter.
Isn't that lovely?
I want that on
Isn't
a t-shirt. Just me with like
I-
a thumbs up. Foreign matter.
I was Thursday. I was just
Foreign
drink
matter.
most, but I don't. What time?
What?
Like, I don't know.
How do you get
I
enough
just
to
wanna-
drink it? Is that
I don't know.
like that was
Sit
but
there and drink it.
foreign matter.
Sitting there. My dad asked me one time, and he was like, "What are you drinking?" And I was like, "My spit."
Yeah.
He was like, "Don't do that."
I was like, this is too much.
Okay, anyway, the trachea does end behind the heart, and then it divides into the bronchi.
No, I'm very aware of my spit.
The bronchi, by the way, are not the same size, and they don't branch at the same angle either, because on the left side is where your heart is located, so it angles slightly differently, and it's a different length than the one on the right. Okay, but then, oh, there we go. This is the cough reflex. Anything that's an obstruction or irritation in the larynx, the bronchi, or the trachea, that is when you will cough. And that's your body's way of expelling whatever is trapped there.
I'm gonna make a foreign matter t-shirt. Just got it.
Spends all the.
I had so many t-shirt ideas.
T-shirts. Banners, Jared.
Foreign matter.
Foreign truckloads of t-shirts.
I think the bell's about, oh,
Yeah.
it's about to ring. You're so close.
Curtains. Yes. Is that Nicole Reed? Sure. It just says curtains. Curtains. With like.
We have to like
It should have like curtains.
Yeah, make curtains. And I did not take this picture. I'm no way.
A shirt that says curtains.
Like, I heard that a couple days
Okay,
ago.
call Brady. You can come here.
Stat.
So funny. I love for additives for hitting stuff. Give it a good wallop. Wallop. Yeah, it's actually awesome.
And it was whenever you were being the judge or whatever, and you were messing around, she kept trying to like that. I was like, bop it. And then she just sort of like looked at me and I said, twist it. And she was just like,
Pull it.